You can see the acronym here. I think it's the most complicated acronym that we have seen for some time. We're very grateful to have all of you participating today. Over the last 10 years, droughts have been increasing in severity and frequency in most of the Islamic Development Bank member countries, and their impact has created conditions of chronic vulnerability to climate change with persistent food insecurity, water scarcity, widespread economic hardships, and migration. IsDB has teamed with ICRISAT and co-created a program entitled what I have just announced. I'll just call it the program from now on, to harness science and innovation to revolutionize the cereal-based cropping systems in the dryland regions of IsDB member countries. Of course, the success of the program relies on significant investment with support from national and international technical partners, major financial institutions, which will drive agricultural transformation and growth. And this particular side event really combines all of the key elements between the technical groups, donors and investors, and of course, all of the other supporting groups and governments and civil society to make sure that we can deliver on our program. The objectives, of course, are to think about how we can catalyze strategic partnerships and how we can explore some of these scalable opportunities that are there. And the outcomes will not be surprising to you. It's really to identify technical options that we can bring forward within this program, certainly to strengthen the regional trade opportunities for dryland cereals, to create jobs for women, for youth, and really for economic growth within communities. And the work that we do together will certainly lead to the development of innovative partnerships for engaging donors, investors, and private-public groups effectively to really promote the kind of investment that we require. So we'll have just a little bit of a shift in the run of show today. But first, I'm very pleased to introduce our first speaker that will give a presentation, and then we'll have a series of panels, as you can see in the outline. I'd like to introduce Dr. Biola Kazim Badmos, coming as the Senior Agriculture and Food Sector Specialist from the Islamic Development Bank. And he will just give us a rundown on the opportunities that are available. So Dr. Badmos, it's the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Switch around and I will give you this one if I may. Sorry for the left.
Okay. No, it's fine. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to say a big thank you to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for giving us the opportunity to host this COP16. And I also want to thank our partners and the participants for this session. As the DG mentioned, the acronym looks complex, but I think the problem we are solving is also a complex problem. So you have to address complex with complex situation. Well, we'll make it simple as well. So just to run through the program, can I use the, okay. So just want to give a quick overview of what we do in the Islam Development Bank for those who are not familiar with our activities. So Islam Development Bank was established in 1975. We have over 1,000 staffs, domiciled in about 11 regional hubs. Our HQ is in Jeddah. We have countries scattered around the world in 4 continents, in Latin America, Africa, Europe, and Asia. And we have unique mode of operation. And also we have about 6 entities because it's a group. So we have the Islam Development Bank Institute, the insurance arm. We have the ICD, which is the private sector arm. The insurance arm is ISEC. We have the ITFC, which is trade finance, and the Islamic Solidarity Fund, which tries to address poverty. So just to give a quick overview of our mode of operation, we have a public sector financing, the private sector partnership, then we have the capacity and technical cooperation, and we have the reverse linkage. So also to highlight quickly what our strategy looks like, this is our realigned strategy, which will be from 2023 to 2025. and also to show the relevance of the strategy to the topic we are discussing today. The strategy identifies clearly agriculture and rural development and the importance of nutrition and food security. So it's actually formed around 3 strategic objectives: boosting recovery, tackling poverty and building resilience, and driving green economic growth, which are actually critical elements in our discussion today, because we are talking about boost recovery from the impact of the poly crisis of COVID, the Russia and Ukraine war. And we're also trying to address poverty and building resilience of our communities. As we all know, most of our member countries, I mean, they are all South-South, global South, so they are countries facing significant challenges. So I also want to quickly touch on the agriculture and rural development sector policy. So the objective of the policy is to alleviate poverty, promote public-private partnership, create rural employment, build resilience and climate-smart agriculture, promote inclusive and sustainable integrated approaches. And the pillars are, we have 6 pillars, which is to build resilient and climate-smart agriculture, improve access to market, promote inclusive and sustainable integrated approaches, and the other 3. So the important thing is that this millet program, the wheat, millet, and sorghum, they are all aligned to this policy, which I'll touch on in the course of this presentation. So as a form of background, in July 2022, the Islamic Development Bank launched the Food Security Response Program, which is basically a 10.5 billion program to address the poly crisis coming from the COVID, the climate change itself, as well as the conflict. So the whole idea is to support our member countries to recover from the food crisis and to build their long-term resilience. So just to give you a quick overview of what the FSRP looks like. So as I mentioned, the FSRP is targeted at our member country to complement their national food security effort in averting the ongoing food crisis and also to strengthen their resilience to future food shock. So the FSRP has 2 tracks, the short term and the medium term. So the short term is basically to address the immediate crisis impact, which is emergency food and input supply, and the social protection and livelihood support. While the medium term, which also long term, is basically to build the resilience. So we want to support activities that will enable the countries to be able to fight back if there's any form of shock. So if you can see the activities items there, covering livestock, fisheries, build food and input value chain, smallholder productivity, rural livelihood. You see all these items are all connected to the subject of our discussion today. So just to conclude on the FSRP, like I mentioned, there are 2 tracks which have been categorized based on the amount allocated to them. So secondly, in the Islamic Development Bank, we participated actively in the food crisis of 2009. And during the assessment of this of the food crisis of our support, we realized that supporting individual projects is not as impactful as having them in a program form. So based on that, we have been proactively working on developing regional programs that help to address common challenges our member countries are facing. You realize that if I take the northern part of West Africa, you see most of them have different agroecology and they cultivate similar crops. So they all face similar challenges. So just a quick overview of some of our initiatives that are in a programmatic form. So I've classified this into the programs under implementation and the programs that are under preparation. So just to show the effort that we are really putting to ensure we address the common challenges facing our member country. So we have our rice value chain, we have the regional soil fertility mapping program, the Alliance for Special Agro-Processing, and the Regional Cassava Value Chain Program. These are all under implementation. And under preparation, we have another 4 set of programs, which the regional wheat, regional millet, sorghum wheat trade and transformation is one of them. We also have the African Livestock Resilience Program, which we are collaborating with ICRISAT as well as ILRI and a number of partners. Then we have 2 other programs which are under preparation, which are all connected to what we will be discussing today, because Earth observation is critical when we are talking of mapping the land, trying to identify what is best for a certain location, and also small hydropower for rural livelihood. We need to provide irrigation for these crops. So now going to the subject of our discussion today, which is the Regional Millet Sorghum Wheat Trade and Transformation Initiative. So the overall objective of this program is to harness the potential of wheat, millet, and sorghum production and system transformation towards increasing food security and reducing import bills from the non-OIC countries. The idea is this, and we want to learn from the challenges that we saw during the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Many of our member countries, including the rich member countries and the countries that are not in that, the developing and the a bit developed member countries, we all suffer significantly in terms of having grains. So we felt that it's time for us to actually use what we have. We have a number of member countries that can actually produce this wheat, millets, and sorghum, and this can be exported to the other member countries that have the financial muscle. So it's basically OIC member countries supporting each other, support coming from the consuming member country to those countries that are limited in terms of they have the resources, the natural resources, but they don't have the financial strength. So whatever that is surplus from, let's say in Africa, can be exported to the GCC region, which is kind of OIC supporting OIC. So in terms of component, there are four main components in the program. So the first component is about raising production and productivity through yield enhancing innovations. This is unlimited. The number of items listed here is more than that, but just to highlight a few, we are talking about improved seed, soil fertility amendment, irrigation and mechanization, and the good agronomic practices. Also, it's important, while you improve the yield and the productivity, you need to have access to the market. So this next component is looking at how does the increased production get access to the market. So this will be looking at post-harvest reduction, quite a number of activities that they may not be mentioned here. We also look at things around linking farmers to market. We need to have good roads. Then it's also important, financing is not sufficient. When you provide finance without capability, it becomes failure. So we are also looking at building capacity of the farmers, building capacity of implementing agencies and the countries. And lastly, we'll look at the program management and coordination. So just to quickly run through the expected result, we hope that by the time this program starts implementing, when we start cascading it into country respective projects, we expect that this program will contribute to reducing household poverty, reducing malnutrition, improving household food security, increasing food system resilience, increasing volume and value of dryland cereal traded among OIC countries, and finally reduce dependence of OIC country on staple cereal import. So just a quick snapshot of the targeted member countries. This, it's open to a number of member countries, but for now, these are the countries that have been identified. They are classified into, it's a mix. Some are going to be producing member country, and some member countries are going to be providing the kind of support to enable the countries that do not have the financial capacity or infrastructure to produce, and they can also bring back to them. So just to also go highlight quickly some of the area of intervention. It is not exhaustive, but just to pick on some critical ones and also very important. They are all very critical and very important. So I will try not to go through all, but I'll just touch on a few ones. For instance, we'll be among the intervention, we'll be looking at appropriate skill mechanization and frugal technology. This will be looking at bringing technology that have been tested, if mechanization technology that have been tested in some part of the world. For instance, ICRISAT has been engaged in, I think, some technology coming from Asia that can be transferred to Africa, which is going to be very cheap, not expensive technology. And we're also looking at the agribusiness innovation platform. As we know, what we have said is we are not just increasing production, we also want the farmers to be rich. We want to bring them out of poverty. So we need to create a business opportunity for them. We're also looking at Dryland Academy, which will be basically providing capacity building, knowledge management, disseminating the findings of the work, and also integrated crop livestock value chain. We realize that there's a strong complementarity between livestock and crop. So some of these, for instance, sorghum, some of these fodders can be fed to the animals. And the interesting thing we have is that we also have a regional African livestock resilience program, which we are beginning to see complementarity between our programs. And importantly, this program will also come up with evidence-based policy support So, I mean, all these are going to contribute into supporting policies to advise countries. So in terms of roadmap, where are we now? Where do we want to go next? So the program framework is under finalization. We've been working closely with ICRISAT and a number of our partners, but specifically and strongly with ICRISAT. The program document has been close to finalization. It's going through series of review before we send it to our management for review, technical management, and we go to senior management for approval. So we hope that by the first quarter of 2025, we should get the program framework approved. Then upon the approval of the program framework, what we have realized that when you have program of such, just developing the program without having some kind of regional capacity building workshop, we have seen that in our cassava program, this regional capacity building workshop has been very helpful because before we can proceed to implement or design any project in the country, we need to have an official request from country. And we have seen that this kind of program can bring the countries together. When a particular country sees what is happening in another country, it motivates them to send a request. And through this capacity building workshop, countries get to know more about the program, then they really understand what is there for the countries to benefit. And upon the regional capacity building workshop, we hope to be able to cascade the program framework into country respective projects. But in the course of that process, the country dialogue, partner engagement continues. It's a continuous process because we'll continue to engage countries, new countries that are interested, we'll continue to engage them to join the program. So I would like to use this opportunity to actually invite partners and both financial partners, technical partners, to come on board and let's come together to support our member countries. I mean, the wheat, millet, sorghum, these are very important commodity in terms of that can bring in foreign exchange and commodity that can actually improve the nutrition for the nursing mothers and the kids. So it has a lot of benefit and a lot of opportunity for the OIC member country. So everyone, you are invited to join us in this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Biola. It's a great and very comprehensive overview of the very exciting ideas with respect to this program. As promised, and it's a very good segue that Dr. Biola has set up with respect to additional partners. As I mentioned, we just have had a slight change in our program. It gives me great pleasure to introduce and to ask to come to the stage two of our colleagues here. First of all, Mr. Ziad El Sabi. Mr. El Sabi is the Senior Specialist, Development Programs and Initiatives with the Saudi Fund for Development. You're very welcome, sir. And also, I'd like to invite Dr. Osman Alfel, the Special Advisor to the President of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, Badia. Please, a round of applause for our two colleagues. Please have a seat. Welcome. It's a great pleasure. Please. So we're very interested in, you've, I think, have a sense of the program that we're speaking about. Dr. Biola has given an overview of the opportunity in front of us. We are very excited about the progress that we've made up until now. But the question that I will ask to the two of you, and maybe I'll ask, since our host country is here, and I have to say thank you to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for putting on such a great event here at COP16. Thank you very much. Please, if you wouldn't mind just saying to share your perspectives and interest in supporting this program and maybe some of your oversight. So please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys. And let me firstly introduce the Saudi Fund for Development in a brief way. Actually, we just celebrated our Golden Jubilee in September, last September. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have financed more than 800 projects in 100 countries around the world, amounted at $21.7 billion. Regarding the water sector and agriculture sector, we have financed in the water sector more than 57 projects, amounted $3.8 billion US. About the agriculture, we have financed more than 100 projects worth $2.8 million US. So it's in our mandate to finance developmental projects, whether it's directly benefit this kind of sector or the whole ecosystem around it. For example, if we are talking here about the program of the IsDB, actually IsDB is one of the ACG group members, and we rely very much on their studies and research, and we heavily trust their outcome. So whenever they are going to somewhere, we will support them in the project itself or the surroundings of it. For example, if it's agriculture project, but it needs some kind of transportation project to support this project, we will be there, inshallah. And but the small let's say issue, not a challenge, is that Saudi Fund for Development is a bilateral institution. So we cannot work as the Islamic Development Bank, but wherever they are going, definitely we will be there. And another idea is, beside the transportation, I have a very good example of one of the SAG group members. They have invested heavily in the telecommunication for the agriculture benefit. So they invest in some kind of SMS to send it to the farmers to warn them about storms, when they should implement their or plant their seeds, and to make the outcome bigger than depending on their own. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for that intervention. Very helpful. Very much we appreciate your comments. Dr. Osman, the same question to you from the perspective of Badia. Please, the floor is open to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'd like to start by thanking the government of Saudi Arabia for hosting the COP16. Also, will be also thanking CUSAT and IsDB for this opportunity for Badia to come and to know really about this program. As have been said by our colleague from Saudi Arabia, from the Saudi Fund, I would like just to briefly say that Badia is the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa. Badia is the French abbreviation of the title, and I think we are there, created same year as IsDB in 75, and have been here for almost 50 years, and we also celebrated our Golden Jubilee in last April. And really we are working in 44 African countries. You see the capital is from the Arab countries. This is what is unique about Badia, is capital from the Arab countries, but none of them is benefiting from that bank. It is very directed 100% to the operations in sub-Saharan Africa. So we are operating in 44 countries. ECOWAS region, where a number of countries are classified as arid or semi-arid, the 15 countries is taking almost 50% of the financial transfer that Badia did. Agriculture is and food security is about 15 to 20% of our total portfolio, which is up to now is about $14 billion to African countries. And I think really what have been, I'm honored to join IsDB, as said by a colleague from the Saudi Fund. It is the same Arab coordination group, and definitely we are coordinating with each other, and we'll be more than happy to participate in this program. And I think the agriculture, as I said, is really the core of our one of the 4 pillars of Badia Strategy 2030. You have the infrastructure development, agriculture value chain, SMEs development, which is also can touch about the agriculture value chain, and development of trade and private sector. Again, this also could really have strong touches to the to the program, really the serial program in arid and semi-arid countries. And I think in our design, we used to really to think about all the aspects that have been highlighted by Dr. Biola in his presentation. And definitely we'll be more than happy to join. And all the countries that have been listed here, with the exception of the Arab countries, are beneficial countries of Badia. And we'll be really expecting maybe the invitation at least to be in that validation workshop, and really to go with the program for any other countries, as Biola said, where you might be implementing the projects starting the mid of 2025. So what I would like to say, agriculture, food security, it is the heart of our operations. We'll be more than happy to join ISDB. Also, you'll be there with our colleagues from other ACG Arab Coordination Group, and definitely we'll put our hands together to make this program successful, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to the two of you. I realize that you have other responsibilities, so we will excuse you, but thank you very much for your intervention. And again, thank you very much for the very constructive words that both of you have been able to provide. It's very much appreciated. And thank you for your time. Another round of applause, please, for our colleagues. Thank you very much. We'll now transition to some of the technical supporters. I'd like to invite three colleagues to the chairs, to the platform as well. First of all, to invite Dr. Tarifa El-Zabi, the Director General of ICBA, the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Tarifa. Also to introduce Dr. Ali Abusaba, a good friend has developed over the last several months, the Director General for ICARDA, the International Center for Agricultural Research in Dry Areas. Round of applause, please. And my good colleague, Dr. Rebi Harawa, the Director for Africa for ICRISAT, the International Crops Research Institute for the Semi-Arid Tropics. Welcome. So we're going to do this in the order the way that you've been seated. This is very reassuring. I don't know, people must have been following the script somehow in all of these things. To you, Dr. Tarifa, can you just give us a sense of how ICBA can contribute to the success of this program? And maybe a second question just to have you thinking as well. Water is one of the biggest limitations in the production of food in the drylands. If you could just share your reflections on the sustainable management of fresh water and the use of alternative water, which of course ICBA is so involved with to support the proposed program. So just to give us a sense of the implementation and then more broadly around the use of water, please.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm delighted to see familiar faces, friends and colleagues, of course, and professionals that we've been working with. To start with your questions, I mean, I always say, and I started saying that ICBA is the salt to your food. So since we're biosaline and since we're dealing with salinity challenges, there is a lot of things that we can bring to this program. First of all, congratulations on this initiatives. I think it's really important. ICBA has been working on a number of crops, including millets and sorghum since 2020 as well. And we have, as you know, a gene bank that has 17,000 different accessions of crops that are salt, heat, saline heat, and drought tolerant. So when we talk about such initiatives, which it has and rely a lot on the value chain, we need to remember that we need to come up with solutions that will be sustainable. Since we're talking about such crops that has resilient to salinity and heat and drought in many occasions, ICBA has the experience of working in such crops in different countries. We've so far worked on 44 different countries. However, particularly when it comes to millets and sorghum, we have been really working in Africa. We're working in Central Asia. So we had a number of successful examples where we were looking at the value chain, especially with sorghum being food and feed at the same time. So you're contributing not only to the human consumption, but also the livestock comes as a very important component. With that, I've seen myself people adopting to crops like sorghum, neglected crops, for example, or managing the best practices of agriculture for those crops if they have already known those crops, but they have forgotten about them or replaced them with the alternatives. We experienced in Central Asia, for example, cooking sorghum, a new type of breads using sorghum called zura. And it was quite exciting because that's also elevate the pressure with the wheat crisis and looking at what kind of alternatives they can really bring to the table in this sense. When we also look at this program, something rightly mentioned, if there is investment, there's supposed to be the right capacity for it. So capacity development and knowledge transfer is a very important component. We're talking about farmer field schools. We talk about knowledge hubs where we establish all the value chain for millets and sorghum in the field. So farmers from different neighboring villages, they can come to the area, look at the best practices. It's learning by doing. Looking at such a model, I think, is very important, because you don't want to introduce an initiative and after a while, people will depart from this exercise. You need them to commit to it. They need them to feel comfortable with it. And something that I witnessed, and I've seen it very successful with ICBA, is introducing the cooking classes even. People bring this food to the table and try to incorporate it in their own food. Food is quite personal. So if we want to bring new crops, we have to bring that kind of a human element to it, so we can ensure that the adaptation is taking its all full-fledged. That's on the first side of your question. The second side, when it comes to the water and technologies of water management side, we know that agriculture consumes 70% of the fresh water. So with this fact, it leaves us with, if we're going to use fresh water, let's use it wisely. And that's where we are trying to implement technologies like smart irrigation. I mean, precision agriculture is very much important, trying to bring Internet of Things and evaluate what is the water and irrigation practices. At ICBA, we've done a water calculator, a system where it tells us how much amount of water a plant would need to consume. Again, irrigation in winter is different than irrigation in summer. So this way you elevate the pressure on the fresh water, and also try to adopt the smart crop. How much of that water will be taken by the crop? Again, back to the fact that adopting those smart, resilient crops, it really elevates the pressure from the fresh water as well. For the saline water and alternative sources of water, we're looking at model like integrated aqua agriculture system, where we know that many countries are depending on water desalination, especially in Middle East and also in Gulf countries. So we take the fresh water and we irrigate with it the cash crop. We take the rejected water from desalination and make sure that we use it to grow fish, and also use that to irrigate as well holophytic crop, the salt-loving crops. And this way you have every single drop of water is counted and used, and there is no waste when it comes to the process.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tarifa. Very much appreciate that. Over to the Director General of ICARDA, Dr. Abusaba. Again, two questions. The first one, how do you see that this program will link the important work that you've done with wheat value chains, and how that work can maybe tie into sorghum and millet chains? And I have to say as well that Dr. Abusaba has been a leader in the announcement that happened this week with respect to the global strategy on resilient drylands that we were very proud to co-lead, but of course that includes all of the CG system in this work on the global strategy. But your views on this program and how it links the wheat value chains, and maybe that connects to millet and sorghum value chains?
First of all, thank you so much, and congratulations for putting this in very important event together. I see a number of points just to answer your question. Number one, the combination of these crops, bringing sorghum, millet together with wheat. I think there has been a very heavy dependence on wheat, which is one of the crops that we do in ICARDA as well for ages. And I think there has been disproportionate investments in the development of other crops. And what we are seeing in this part of the world, which is warming at almost twice the global average, is the need to look more deeply into the kind of other options, other alternatives that could potentially be less water consuming, equally, if not more nutritious, as well as digging deeper into the gene banks of ICRISAT, of ICBA, and of ICARDA as well, and other CG centers to look for solutions. We've been over-dependent for the three crops, rice, maize, and wheat. These are 3 out of 30,000 crops that are actually edible, and we know something about it. And even much worse, a very small proportion of the 400,000 species that are God has created on this planet. So we humans, we need to be a bit more serious about looking harder and more carefully into nature. Now, when I look at this program specifically, I was particularly impressed by the range of countries that this program is trying to cover. When you look at these countries, you will see a very diverse range of agroecologies, soils, water, very differentiated water stress levels that really emphasizes and highlights the need for us to work very closely. I was just looking in my mind the physical presence of a number of these centers and how do we actually take this program for effective implementation, leveraging what we've preached to be working together under the global Dryland strategy, because the strategy is a framework, but the success or lack of depends on how we are willing to be flexible in coming together and working. And the presence of IGBA here, of course, brings in a very deep expertise on saline agriculture, which is a very huge challenge in many of the countries that our friend from the Islamic Development Bank has put in his presentation in those slides. My last contribution here is around climate change. We've seen a country like Kuwait on the list, which is the most water scarce country on the planet. And then we've seen other countries that are in the higher range of the global drylands, maybe 1,000 millimeters of water. So my recommendation here is to be able to have a differentiated approach in the way the concept and the design plans for this project is embraced to allow the full exploitation of available technologies in that space. And I am very confident that in the hands of ICRISAT and the Islamic Development Bank, we will all be there to support and contribute and to make sure that this is a great success. I also wish to thank the Islamic Development Bank for their leadership in that space and very much looking forward to see how we can support. Thank you.
Thank you, Director General. I'm very grateful for those observations. And maybe I would just ask you to reflect just for a minute or two on how this fits even within the global strategy, because I think it would be good for all of us to sort of piece these things together if you have any thoughts on that connection.
Thank you so much for raising this specific question. If I look very broadly, I think there are enormous number of solutions and technologies we can bring, starting from the very conventional breeding and selection of varieties that would be fit to a very wide range of countries, all the way to the other end, talking about gene editing. We're talking about, the other day on the margins, even, cereal fixing, nitrogen cereal fixing, varieties. So you have a very wide range, and there are entry points for so many different capabilities from across the CGIAR into these things. If I look at water, the same kind of things, the solutions about recycling, desalination, recycling, mixing of solutions, even atmospheric water harvesting. We've been looking at in India, where ICRISAT is present, enormous technologies that are affordable, because there are many other technologies across many other parts of the world, effective, but not as economic and not as affordable. So, I'm very excited. This is going to be a huge opportunity for us to look at the global drylands with so many different elements that we could identify as entry points for many of us. Thank you.
Superb. Thank you very much, Director General. Of course, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce a friend and colleague, Dr. Rebi Harawa. Rebi, you have been instrumental in doing this work right from the very beginning. Maybe the first question is just around, what do you see as ICRISAT's role in the development and implementation of the program as presented by Dr. Biola?
Yeah, thank you very much. It's really a great pleasure for me to be here and to see that when it was being presented, at least we are moving forward. I just have to, probably start with this observation that when he presented, you actually said this has a very complex acronym. And he said, yes, because we are dealing with complex challenges and we need complex solutions. When the investors were here, they were all talking about 50 years of experience, 50 years of experience. And ICRISAT, 50 years experience. And I believe it's the same. If we add, you are talking of 200 years experience. And in 200 years of experience, if we fail, then probably we are going to fail the world. I just wanted to put that into perspective, that we are really looking at not just a program that is just going to end up in a report, but that really should bring transformation. So as ICRISAT, we are privileged to be the technical leads in this project, of course, with the partners that are sitting here, but there's also a call to action. We need private sector on board. ICRISAT, we work from the continuum of science of discovery to delivery. You have seen that this project is about scientifically based technologies, proven technologies. When you see those crops, we need to deliver improved seed. So as ICRISAT, we have been in this space of developing these crops, sorghum, millets, and I'm glad to say that highly nutritious crops. There's African situation, I always want to make this statement that we have nearly 40% of the young women in their reproductive age who are iron deficient. They are growing crops, but they're iron deficient crops. This is for us a great opportunity that these are farmers, women that cannot afford to go and buy fortified food on the shelf. So with the work that we have been doing, now is the time that we can take these crops. She mentioned about the value addition, that we are taking these crops to make sure that these farmers, these women, by the end of the day, they can start giving even children that are already having iron and the zinc. When we develop these crop varieties, we are talking of delivering them through our innovative seed system, including some of the public-private sector. This is an opportunity where there is also job creation, even for the youth. The other area that we have been working in is the climate smart agriculture. You saw on the intervention that having a seed is one thing, but we need to make sure that there's good soil, there's good water management, just like Ikibas said. So really bringing all this to harness and making sure that when there's good seed, it has to find good soil and all the elements of the integrated soil fertility management practice. We are talking about climate information because we are working in a very volatile information. We have today digital platforms where we deliver this climate information to make sure that a farmer is making an informed decision. If it's about wheat, if it's about sorghum, millets, what type of varieties, what duration, short duration, medium duration, long-term duration, depending on the rainfall itself. When it comes to farmers making money out of these crops, we need to mechanize the system because they are not going to grow a plot of 20 by 20 meters. We need to have them mechanized. As you have said that ICRISAT, we have an advantage of working both on the Asian continent, but also on the African continent. We have seen that there's a lot of mechanization in the Asian countries, mechanizing even plots as small as 1 acre. They can be able to create even the planters, the tillers, the harvesters at that level. We need that, that technology to be taken to Africa. And of course, vice versa. There are so many things, knowledge exchange. And I'm glad to say that even through this discussion that we have been having, we just had a Ugandan delegation led by their permanent secretary to go to India and learn what are the technologies that can be implemented even in this type of project. I wanted to mention again that this is an opportunity for us as ICRISAT to even tap into agribusiness incubation that we have had in Asia, but also in some parts of Africa. The thing I like about this initiative, that it's about a program. When we talk about projects, I think we shortchange the process of sustainability. It's about country X can supply food to country Z, even within one country. So this gives us an opportunity, as we have said, that surplus can even come into these Asian countries. We have seen that it's about crops that can become even fodder and feed. When I looked around here, I said, I'm sure I've seen somewhere else there have to be some animals, but where is the grass growing? This is an opportunity of having the value addition on the feed that can support, the crop livestock, even industry in the parts of Asia.
One last part is about strengthening the capacity that we need to build sustainability. In the African continent, ICRISAT has been working in the partnership with the national partners. And I'm glad that, the Director General for the National Agricultural Research System is actually sitting here. One of the things that is going to be emphasized this year is to make sure that the national partners are capacitated. And we are talking about capacity sharing. So you don't come in and you tell them what to do, but rather you have to know what are the needs and what are the things that they want to see changing. It's not just about how to develop a variety. It's about the entire value chain. So building the capacity on the production side, on the value addition side, but also on the marketing side. That's why we say that we need to call on the private sector to be part of that. When we talk about people at a local level doing the value addition and so on and so forth, if it's going to reach the export market, it's going to need these big private sector off-takers to be the one taking them to cross the borders. So this is an area that we are going to be building capacity, not just in one area, but also capacity in the entire value chain. So I'm really excited that today we are not just talking about something that will last for 3 years, but something that really can outlive us, as we are saying that we have over 200 years of experience, and if we fail, then we are going to fail everyone else. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rebbe. Well said. Very much appreciate that. And thank you for the segue with respect to national partners. At this point, please, I'd request everyone to just stay in your seats here at the front. But I would also like to now invite Dr. George Tadu to the stage as well. Dr. Tadu, the Director General for the National Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security in South Sudan. Please, a round of applause. Welcome, sir. Please. And before I ask my question, I also need to clarify, I am not worried about the acronym. We have a very simple goal to make the lives of individuals and communities better in the countries that we work. So not concerned at all. Dr. Tadu, thank you very much for joining us. First of all, could you just maybe reflect on what policies are in place that you are aware of in South Sudan to support the proposed initiative? And maybe more importantly, what message would you give to donors, to implementing partners to make this program a success?
Thank you, and particularly for Rabbi for inviting me. I wouldn't have got here. But I think it is, before I go to answer the questions you ask, I just want to say that these days, all over the world, people are interested to support young people, support youth, support women. South Sudan is one of the youngest country, therefore needs support so that it goes together like youth developing. In the country, South Sudan at the moment, we are in a process of either validating our policies, developing new policies, and particularly in terms of crop development, we have food system policy, we have a research policy, which is focusing on adaptive research. And based on that, we signed letters of agreement, particularly with the ICRISAT, around sorghum and millet. We also signed a letter of agreement with the Uganda and the NARO, that is a National Agricultural Research. We also signed recently with them this letter of agreement with the intention of supporting the South Sudan to develop its capacity in terms of crop improvement and at the same time improving the crops across the value chain. The main crops that we are focusing at the moment is the staple food crops. Number one is sorghum, which is being used in 10 states plus 2 administrative areas, followed by cassava. And cassava is also one of the staple food crops, but also it has the characteristics of fighting against famine. Where there's a famine, the SAFA is the one farmers can depend on to fight against the famine. And then the second one is the maize, and is considered as a noble crop, which is for more elite group, shifting from sorghum to maize, because of course maize is now in the East African community as one of the major crops, and South Sudan is also moving towards that, being a member of the East African community. So sorghum is also becoming one of the important crops. Our major challenge is all these food crops, the value chain technologies has not been fully supported or fully developed. And for us to become as one of the potential and also resilient country moving towards development in terms of agribusiness and what we need to develop our value chain. But we have already started. We have 3 projects, one supported by World Bank, another one supported by African Development Bank, the third one by IFAD. And all these projects trying to leverage the livelihood of the people in the rural area, focusing on women and youth as such. And therefore, maybe here, what I could say in this, we will be very happy if ICRISAT, as it already started with us, could make a call on our behalf for the support of agricultural development in the country. I think, thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate that. I'm just going to now invite Dr. Jetta, if you wouldn't mind join, and we'll move towards the Q&A portion of this discussion. Colleagues, you've already heard some of the very constructive comments from the various aspects and elements of the program that we're talking about today. Any questions or comments from the crowd that people may want to have seeking clarity or clarification, or maybe a contribution to how we can improve the program at this point? I'm just going to put Ali on notice because I'm going to ask him a question in a moment if others are still conceiving of things. But Dr. Badmos, I think it would be very good as well if you wouldn't mind joining us as well. And while you come, I need to make also another advertisement. I think there may still be millet cookies out on the podium. As people leave, to give you just that little bit of extra energy, you would be very welcome to take this on. Director General, maybe just over to you first to start the discussion. You've had so much experience with African Development Bank and other groups as well. Any overall constructive points to share with all of us? These projects, of course, they have a number of elements, but the way that we knit things together, how do we start to make sure that we really get to the right endpoint in these types of activities?
Thank you so much. I think this is a very critical question. And I think we have an excellent example here because of the Arab Coordination Group. This is the body that brings in multiple funders together, that they trust each other. They have verified each other's strategies, processes, procedures. So they don't reinvent the wheel every time there is new projects. You know, if Badia or Islamic Development Bank or Kuwait Fund, if they have appraised the project, then everyone else will simply join in and bring in the additional funding that is needed. Funding is a very complicated process, you know, because you have eligibility criteria for countries, you have differentiated terms for these, you know, funding sources, whether it's a grant or a loan. And of course, countries themselves also have a very different priorities for every funder. So that coordination group is really a perfect example on how funders could iron out and reduce the pressures, you know, on the countries themselves to be able to make those decisions. That's one side of things. The second one, maybe I take the example that I'm familiar with the most, the African Development Bank, having been the vice president there for a number of years. We have set up what is called, you know, the Technology for African Agriculture Transformation, TAT. And what this program does is that it challenges the CGIAR as a collective to bring in the best each center and each area of research can bring to the table. They go through a competitive process, they evaluate, they rank, they look at return on investments, they look at scalability, and then they give a compact for every CGIAR center to do a particular part of an overall program that is in seeking to transform the agriculture and the food systems on the continent. So I think this is a model that works very well in Africa. And with the Islamic Bank taking interest in Africa, I think I would recommend, let's look at the lessons learned from this. What has worked well? What has not worked as well? And how can this new program avoid and build on the learning from this space? Two very specific examples, and I will stop, is turning Ethiopia from a net exporter to self-sufficiency in wheat, simply with ICARDA working on the right varieties, the right agronomy practice, the innovation platform, building capacity, and more importantly, developing systems at the country, which has turned a country like Ethiopia, a very large population, from a net importer to net exporter. So there are many other opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Maybe to Mr. Ziad, thank you very much for your participation. There has already been discussion on the panel, but it's been around many of the meetings I've been having this week and beyond. You know, historically, we've always thought in terms of projects. Today, we're talking about a program. And of course, we're also talking about partnerships, those longer term activities. Do you have any insights from your role and the role of your bank in this progression? Are we moving then towards this idea of long-term partnership, or how does the bank think about this?
Yeah, of course. In the Saudi Fund for Development, we very much appreciate the triangular South-South cooperation. For example, we will announce a huge project in this matter. It's a good example of what the Islamic Development Bank Group is doing. They have something called Excellence, Center of Excellence, where they share the knowledge and expertise between their member countries. And it's very important to determine what Dr. Harawa already said, that what can be implemented in one country, it doesn't have to be implemented in another country. We have to study each country individually and understand their needs, and then we can share the knowledge and build the capacity of that certain country or the needed country. Another comment I would like to add is it's not only about agriculture. There are another sectors we have to talk about. For example, we have to educate the children, the young people, about the importance of this sector. For example, someone representing Fiji yesterday said that the average age of farmers in Fiji is 66.
Wow.
It's a very challenging job for a 66-year-old man or woman to do this kind of job. So if we encourage the young people to do such projects or jobs, it will be a benefit for everybody.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that perspective from the fund. Dr. Tarifa, maybe to you, I've always been so impressed by the science done by ICBA. How do we connect that excellent science to the kind of impact that you spoke about when you were answering things earlier? Just if you could give your perspective, please. And we might pass the microphone. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. This is very important. Building on what Mr. has mentioned, it is important to engage young people. And I think passing the science, there is one thing is we all need to understand that science is the backbone of what we do. Because there is a lot of discussion around, I mean, do we invest in science? Is science important? This is taking too long. But by the end of the day, we need it. It's the backbone of what we do. And then we need to elevate and take the science from the labs to the applied science. And that's where we are in the field. We are in the farmers. We are piloting. I like the fact that not every solutions will need to be replicated. There is no one size fits all. Customization is very much important. And we're very much science-driven, decision made when we decide if this country requires this kind of intervention, Yes, we do build on successes. There is something that will be taken to the next level and to another country to improve efficiency. However, we would always bring that kind of piloting and the applied science to the field in order to understand what is really the actual need. And last is to create the impact. We need to bring in the word of commercialization and productization to the process. Not everything needs to stay at the level of the science. We need to, and again, we're looking at the development angle now. We're talking about the TRL, the technology readiness level. We're testing this technology, and we need to do this kind of packaging where farmers or end users, I would say, will be able to adapt to what we say. So if you bring me science, I won't take it. But if you bring me a product and I see that product giving me the impact I want, yes, I will subscribe to that. And that's where we also bring in the youth, because the youth element is quite important. Technology, for example, if we're talking about climate technologies, if we want to forecast what's going to happen, if we're looking at early warning systems for the crops we're going to invest in, we need to bring that satellite images and Internet of Things, and we need to bring every technology. And we know that generation, whenever they are, wherever they are tech savvy. So understanding also the need of youth and bringing them into the technology side, I think it's quite important for the farming. Very difficult to educate, and respect to all ages. We're all young at heart. 66 years old or 70 years old wouldn't be excited about the technology as much as a young person will be really excited to that. So that's where we need to bring the science to application in different shape and forms.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate that. And I have 2 or 3 more questions, but again, I just want to throw it open to the crowd. If there's anyone else that has a particular question or intervention that they would like to make, keep thinking. I'll check back. Or Andre, please, and then I'll give you this one.
Thank you, Stan. It's not a specific question, but I really appreciate the way this conversation was going when you started talking about education. Agriculture plays an incredibly big role in education. First of all, parents need to be able to fund their education. But if that child is not properly nutritioned, cognitive development in children is an immensely important part of the conversation, which we often don't talk about. But so yes, the relationship between agriculture, commercialization, having the money to send a boy and a girl child to school is critical. But then as well, the nutritional side is important. So and that's my relationship with Biola on the crop livestock side. If we cannot integrate these systems, we have to integrate crops and soils and livestock and nutrition and income and education. And at the end of it, and this is why I'm passionate about this convention, is those are the critical components that would combat desertification. It's not just about soil, it's not just about grass or animals, it's the system, because the larger system is what's responsible for land degradation and poverty. And this kind of conversation really excites us. So that's just my little bit of inspiration.
Thank you. My name is Adam Juma from South Sudan. Actually, I decided not to talk before coming here, but we delegate our director here to represent us. But due to the discussion, some of the words touched me to say something about it. So we are happy here to be part of the delegate for COP16. And also we are happy to enjoy these discussions related to food and feed, maybe to help humanity. So here I want to share some experience in South Sudan, which will also reflect to some other countries, maybe within Africa. So we experience a lot of issues because in Africa or in South Sudan, we kept on receiving a lot of funds from different projects. But if you try to look into the impact, it's always less. Why? Because that part of science is lacking. Because we don't have the benchmark of data that helps the funders, even all the donors to lay on. If you talk of agriculture, like people just come to do some activities without doing in-depth research work. So here I will also plead people here in order to make it a bit a way of helping people also to include that part of research and development in order to come with some innovative idea. Yes, we agree that you cannot generalize, as part of the speakers here say, you cannot generalize one technology to some other countries, because each and every country has a different tests and different situations. But for us in South Sudan, we experience a lot of things. So we have good agroecological zones within the country. And then we experience like reduction in terms of production. Like you see, normally farmers say, 10 years ago, we used to like harvest up to this quantity. Like the reduction is going up to now 80% of what they are getting less. So here comes that we want to include that part, for instance, issue related to research. We experienced some good things come from IGBA some years back. We were part of the project between South Sudan and Ethiopia, rehabilitation of salt-affected areas. So we came with some, because that project was like a scientific part of work. We managed to publish up to like, I think 10 good articles is now online. So we here trying to send our voice again. If we get some similar projects, that will help some researchers, because there we teach at universities. And then we have a lot of students that have interest in, they're interested to do some part of, because I'm basically agriculture engineer. So we have a lot of issues, but we lack that part of like fundings, of data collection. And then after that, we come with some good results, but the issues related to publication also limit us a lot. So here we are trying to send our voice that if we could have some, apart from these funding of the projects and all that, we have some special projects that to deal with the research and publication that will be helpful for us, so that next projects will also have some benchmark of information that will not replicate the same mistake. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that comment. I think I saw a hand somewhere on the other side.
Until Mr. Moderator, until you reach, I'm here, Tarifa, it's behind you.
Sorry for
I'm
stepping in front.
I'm just trying to say voices received, and ICBA was committed to connect and help as well.
Well, I'm hiding behind here, so I'll stand. Thank you. This has been very interesting and I think also very promising. I want to say several things. What I see developing here, I would like to see it happen in a major way. I think there's really good opportunity for partnership between Africa and the Arab world. And like, let this be a beginning that's going to grow even more substantially. And I see this more even on the ground, not just across projects and programs. And, you know, one of the things related to that is I'd like to see a collaboration, for example, at the research level between, say, for example, ICBA and the CG, but not just the CG, but the NARS as well. I was privileged enough to visit ICBA more like 10 years ago, gave a presentation there, and ICBA had a project in Ethiopia that was that kind of engagement. Seeing that going forward would be really, really good and very helpful. I think Africa, well, South Sudan, for example, rich country in agriculture, but the know-how that's required and a young nation, I think investing both from within Africa, but also from the Arab world is very important from that. And one of the things that's risen a couple of times is making smallholder farming, because those are the size of farms, attractive to youth. How is it? Asking that question, Rebbe spoke about mechanization. That's really important to do that. And appropriate digitization. I'll talk about my good friend Andre. His son is actually running a farm, a mixed crop livestock farm in South Africa. And the area farmers call him the iPad farmer, I think. He goes around with these, and he's very immersed in it. We'd like to see that kind of thing emerge, and we'd like to see the thinking going into it as to how do we do that? Because the resource in terms of youth and in terms of land is there, but it's currently drudgery. So I congratulate you all, and let's partner and go take this forward in a big way.
Thank you very much. And I liked your observation with respect to national programs. So maybe to Director General Tadu, excuse me, I'm not becoming emotional. Maybe just a comment from your side on respect to, of course, the national programs, but I'm thinking specifically about that last mile, that extension approach. Do you have any advice for the program, for all of us on, in the case of South Sudan, how we can connect through to that last mile extension activity to really make this come to the hands of farmers?
Thank you. Thank you once again. I usually don't want to make a long statement, but what I want to emphasize is that we have already signed a letter of agreement with the ICRISAT. And my appeal, let that letter of agreement be expanded to a bigger agreement through which we will be able to expand with the energy, with also knowledge, and also we make the farmers enjoy what we are discussing today. The other thing, of course, we are also in the process of making an agreement with another CGIAR, that is IATA. We are trying to make an agreement where they can make an investment plan for South Sudan, being as a juvenile agricultural system, agricultural policy, so that we become a vibrant and also a research system that is focusing not only with the technology, but also with the need of the farmers, and then also commercialization, so that we are able to improve our GDP. And improving the GDP will be able also to contribute to the nation, to the world, as well as to our region. So lastly, but not the least, the important thing is that what have we heard about from the technology without taking technology to the farmers will be of no use. And even if you take technology to the farmers and farmers produce commodity produce there, if there are no market for them, then it will become of no use. So there's a need to make this linkage from technology development, going to the commercialization, and then also improving the livelihood of the people from the rural level as well as urban areas. So to conclude, I'm also happy. My neighbor here have already affirmed support to what the voice was being raised by our colleague there. That is already important thing. But once again, the ICRISAT will lead us where we want to go. Thank you.
Loud and clear. Thank you very much for that endorsement. I'm just going to give Dr. Biola just a heads up that I'm going to ask you for 2 minutes of closing comments. But before we do that, I'm just going to reach out to Rebbe, and I don't want to categorize you just by your disciplinary interest. I know you are a Renaissance person, but I know how involved you've been with things like the Soil Initiative for Africa and all of those elements of soil health. How do you see that component fitting into the program that we're discussing today? Maybe we can pass the microphone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. As we have seen, in this program, one of the, like almost the entry point is raising productivity. In Africa, the soils that we have today, I call them, they are tired soils, low soil organic carbon. You have a big part of Africa where they are still grappling with the issues of soil acidity. You are talking of salinity. These are soils that cannot give us the increased productivity for these particular projects.
So I'm glad that this is the program that is coming at the same time when we have already an action plan in place for the Soil Initiative for Africa, which is actually looking at how do we really make these soils to be healthy enough to actually feed Africa. And I'm saying soil health because that initiative is focusing on soil fertilizer and soil health. In my presentation, I've said for us to feed the countries in Africa, it has to be an integration of organic and inorganics. Inorganic fertilizer alone, we cannot do it in Africa because other countries, I think we have seen in the Western world, in Europe, that basically they dumped tons of fertilizers, which has destroyed the environment, destroyed the soils. We don't want to repeat that. We still need fertilizer, but we have to use that judiciously. Judiciously means you need to bring the fertilizer, but combine it with animal manure. That's why this crop livestock is very, very important in this particular project, that the manure, you mix it with the little fertilizer that you have. ICRISAT has been promoting technologies like fertilizer microdosing for sorghum and millets. Typically, you need 120 kilos of fertilizer to put in most of these crops, the cereals. But under fertilizer microdosing, we designed a technology where you can use actually 30 kilos of this per hectare, and you mix with the manure. Already you are reducing the amount. And of course, most of our farmers, they live on less than $2 per day. So they can't afford. So whatever they can afford, typically it's a I don't want to promote a company, but Coca-Cola bottle top is the measurement that they use. And you put the fertilizer precisely where the crop is going. That's why precision nutrient management is very, very critical as part of raising this productivity. When it comes to these crops, I'm glad that we are talking about, wheat, sorghum, millet cropping system. These farmers, they're not going to grow only these crops. They are going to bring legumes. If we bring water to where the water can recharge, they are going to grow vegetables because we are talking about the nutrition. Any of those crop residues, if it can't get to the livestock to bring back the manure, you need to incorporate it back. So the critical part is really making sure that the messaging around how do we combine this, it needs to reach, as you said, the last mile. We need to have mass demonstration of these technologies on the farmers because they always say seeing is believing. So soil is going to be very, very critical as part of this raising productivity for this project.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bashir, and then we'll move towards the closing segments, but welcome. It's good to have you here.
No, thank you very much, Stan. My question actually slightly different, and it goes to Ziad from the Saudi Development Fund. The design of this program is one that we envisage a lot of trade in what is produced, sorghum, millet, into this country. But besides that, we also see opportunities for capacity development. I have lived in this country, and in the GCC countries, there are high levels of innovations in the institutions of research, training, universities. Do you see linkages where we could find opportunities here for students from Africa to come to, as part of the program, to some of the institutions here? For example, King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah has got very strong agricultural research and training, and there are innovations there. So I'm just thinking of how could we take advantage of the rich innovations here and blend that into the capacity development that a lot of the speakers here, including Dr. Tarifa, mentioned, capacity development, because we don't want to remain old age there. We want to be cutting edge as well. And there's a lot going on here of relevance to this work. Do you see opportunities not only in Saudi, but also in UAE and other countries that we could benefit from in terms of capacity development?
Please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bashir. I would kindly ask you to be patient with us, if you would like to, please, because as I told you that we will have a program dedicated to the South-South cooperation, where we can host people from anywhere in the world to be benefited from our expertise here in Saudi Arabia. Otherwise, if you don't have the time, you can reach the IsDB, because they already have their center of excellence where they can host people or share their knowledge and expertise between their member countries. And I can connect it to the dedicated people in this center of excellence in IsDB.
I appreciate both the question and the answer, and I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Biola, but I will just say we had the privilege of talking to Director General Issa Faye yesterday from the Islamic Development Bank, and this was one of the key points that he made was around capacity development and making sure that we have great opportunities for young people, especially on educational activities. So this very much seems to align with what we heard from the Director General from ISDB. Dr. Biola, just a couple of closing minutes of comments from you before we wrap up, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, DG. And thank you, our distinguished panelists. I think it's been a wonderful session, I must confess, because I think the momentum is building very strong. And this is what we are all asking for. We have common challenges and we need to work together to solve these challenges. And I could see the complementarity. I'm happy the CGIAR Institute also, they already have the one CGIAR strategy. So we have IGBA also coming into the game. So I think we are very happy in the Islamic Development Bank. And like we have in our other programs, they are all moving very well. And I could see a strong traction for this particular project. I think let's keep the acronym complex as it is, so that we can have more partners to come and demystify the situation. So I think, like I said during the presentation, the most likely next step, which is going to be the major next step, will be the regional workshop. So we want to have more participants, more technical experts to come into the workshop. We'll be inviting the member countries, because that is when the member countries will actually see the values that will be coming from the likes of IGBA, ICRISAT, ICADA, and the likes. And the good thing is that most of these institutes are already working with the countries. They already know you, but we want them to know you better, so that to convince their respective countries to express interest and to participate in the project. And I also want to thank our brother from Saudi Fund for Development. We, like you said, we trust ourselves. Everything we do, we go along with each other. So we want that partnership to continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's all that's very appropriate. All that's left for me is to thank you as the audience. Thank you for your engagement, for your excellent questions, and for your interest in what is a very exciting, simple program that's really focused on improving the lives of these individuals and communities. I think if I could just prevail upon you one more time for a round of applause for just a superb panel. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Oh, yes, there must be a picture.